Hello YouTube, this is William. Welcome to another video on this Russian knife. There seems to be a lot of interest in this knife, and so I thought maybe that I would do a follow-up video on it and answer some of the questions that's been on the previous one. Now, I hope that I'm pronouncing this right, but someone had put in that the knife should be pronounced Yakutian, I think. I'm not sure. Alright, but anyway, and also there were some questions as how do you sharpen it? How do you sharpen a hollow grind? Which a hollow grind, when you're talking about hollow grinds, that's the primary grind. You don't sharpen the primary grind. You sharpen the secondary grind. So, real quick, this is the hollow right here, and I cut my finger on this knife. It was on the table, and I was just going to move it out of the way. It is one sharp knife. So anyway, just touched it and just sliced my finger. Anyway, so this is the hollow. This is what the knife makers, they grind this part. You don't mess with it as a customer. This is the area that you sharpen. See if I can get it in the light just right. See that bright shiny spot right there? That is a flat grind or a V grind or half of a V grind. Now if you look at Winnipeg, if you look at the definition of this knife, I can't even talk this morning, then that is considered a chisel grind, which a chisel grind typically goes all the way to 0. It's just one angle. But the problem is on this side you have a convex. So I don't know if it's really considered a chisel or not, but they call it a chisel. So for argument's sake, we'll call it a chisel. Alright, so this one has a convex, and it's a very high convex. If you can see, the convex starts about here and rolls down to a 0 edge. So in theory, this entire part here is sharpened or stropped. Alright, so that's how this first one is done, model A of the prototypes. Don't even have my logo on this thing. So the other question was, is it a left hand or a right hand dominant? In other words, if you're left-handed, should the hollow be on one side, or if you're right-handed, should it be on the other side? So I'm not very proficient with my left hand, so I made a second model, and I switched. I put the convex on this side. If you look at see the hollow is on that side, on the bottom one, on the first one. So I put the convex on that side. Then I see model B, see B right under my logo there. Second model of the prototypes. Then on the next side has the hollow. See 01, means it's 01 tool steel. Alright, so that's the convex. Or I'm sorry, that's the hollow on this one. Convex is on this one. Now the convex starts about here. I put a very low convex on this knife. I'm going to show you some issues with this. Or I say issues. It's not really issues. It's the more steel you leave on the knife, the stronger the knife is. This is 5/32 01. This is 3/16. Alright, I wanted something a little bit thinner. So let me move the camera down and let's do some cutting. I got some things to do today, so I really don't have time to get out in the yard and in the backyard and whittle on a stick. So let's just do something real quick, just to let you guys know that that I am testing that issue out, whether it's left-handed or right-handed, and let's just whittle on some things right quick, right in the shop. Alright, I got some leather here, and it's all 8-9 ounce leather out of the same batch and everything. So just cutting leather, you really don't see that much of a difference. Alright, this knife does have an apex that's lower, so it doesn't slice as well as this knife, and it has nothing to do with whether the hollow grind is on the left or on the right. If you look at this knife, see how straight up and down it is? See this knife? How straight up and down it is? Now the next thing is, you're looking at a 3/16 blade versus a 5/32 with a green handle. Look how the leather is pressed apart or pulled apart on the green handle knife. And this is a 5/32 edge. Or this one is a 5/32 thickness. So it's thinner than the 3/16. But the leather is being pushed apart. It's creating a wedge. So it should baton better, but it doesn't slice as well as this one. Alright? Has nothing to do with whether the convex is on the left or on the right, or the hollow is on the left or the right. Has to do with edge or blade geometry. Okay? And I'll show that, demonstrate that in a little bit. Somebody said that it would feather better right-handed if you put the convex on the other side. Okay, so I said I would test that out. Now, in actuality, it doesn't matter. And let me explain why. Feathering has nothing to do with whether it is a convex, a full flat, or a Scandi, or if it's a saber. What feathering has to do with is this part right here. Whether this blade can lay down on the wood or if something's going to hold it off of the wood. Okay, so let's take this for example, this piece of wood. If you lay the blade flat and you start bringing it along, and as you go, raise the edge up. It's touching the wood right there. You see where it starts doing the curl? See how it's curling? Okay, this is probably maybe a 1/4 inch on the backs, on the spine from the wood, and this is the same width blade. Okay, so let me show you on the convex the difference of a high convex and a low convex. Okay, see there's the curl that we started. Now since the convex is on this side, we'll start on this side. Okay, see now that is where we're touching the wood. We're what? 1/2 inch off of the wood. The higher this spine is on the wood, the more it wants to drive the blade into the wood. You don't have the option of laying the blade down to do fine curls. So if you're laying the blade down to do fine curls, what it's doing is this apex or this bevel here is hitting the wood before the edge does. So it depends on the curve of the blade, and I hope I'm explaining this adequately. So if you have a convex on this side that you're doing the feathers, if you have a shallow convex, then it will do feathers very well. But if you have a very thick convex and you start very low down, you have a stronger blade, but it's not going to do feathers very well. It's the same issue with sabers, same issue with Scandis, with all of them. If this apex is too thick or this grind is too steep, it's going to drive the blade into the material. Alright? So, same thing with a hollow. If this secondary edge here is at a steep angle, then that means you have to hold the blade at a steep angle in order for the edge to touch the material you're cutting. Alright? So, it has no bearing as to whether the hollow is on the left or on the right. The bearing or the problem is whether the geometry is correct on the knife or not. Alright? So, well, and correct is according to how you use a knife. It may be correct for you, but it may not be correct for me. Okay? So, it's all a personal choice. I get a lot of questions of people want me to recommend things, and I can give you a recommendation, but the problem is I don't know how you use a knife. You're going to have to make these decisions through education. Alright, and that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to pass on what little I know. Okay? So, anyway, just trying to use this as a left hand, this knife is wanting to dig in, and it's not wanting to do curls very well. It'll do very thick feathers, but it's not very good at doing the very thin stuff. It will. It takes a little practice and wants to skip off. Alright, now that's on the convex side. That's left-handed. Now if I use this one on the convex side, which would be right-handed, see how fine those curls are? That's because I can lay the blade down. It has nothing to do with left-handed or right-handed. Alright, that has nothing to do with which side the hollow is on and which side the scandies or the convex is on. Okay? Has to do with blade geometry, and that goes for any knife in the world. Okay? The thing that we need to find out is whether having a hollow on one side and a convex on the other, if it makes a better knife. That's what we're going for. That's what we're trying to find out. Now I do know, for me, I would prefer a higher convex, a thinner blade here, because to me it carves better. I would prefer that over strength, because for strength I don't need strength because I have a hatchet. But if you want to use this as a one tool option, then you're probably going to want a shallower convex. You want the strength there. Okay? So it depends on how you want to use the knife. Me, I would prefer this knife because it carves better. I can do more with it. See, and that's on the hollow side. So if I use this one on the hollow side, go with the same grain. See, it carves just as well. Alright? That's because of the apex on this side. Now if you look at this, the apexes, you'll see a difference. This blade is a little bit thicker here, so it has the same degree angle on the secondary edge that you sharpen. But this is a little bit thicker here, so the material has a little bit further to travel up in order to hit that angle. So this one actually feathers better on the hollow side. Because that's where the blade is hitting it, is right there. Whereas on here, well, I'll take that back. This one even feathers better on the hollow side as well because it has so far to travel up. The apex is still not holding the blade off of the material too far. Again, using the same philosophy, that's where it's hitting at, right there. So how far is the blade up? Let me go see if I can get an instrument. Alright, now I don't know if I'm going to be able to see this or not, but at least you will be able to see the difference in the angles. Okay? So we're moving the knife along, and it's hitting the wood at that point. I don't know what that is. That's what, 20? That's 20? Okay. So let's do the other knife on the hollow side and see what that shows. Okay, we're hitting there. Was that 24? So it's about 4 degrees difference. So that 4 degrees, you're having to drive the edge of the blade into the material. It's not letting you lay the blade down and get those finer curls. Okay, so let's look at on the convex side and see what that shows. All right. So we're laying the blade down. Okay, we're hitting the material now. You can see that. What is that? It's almost 24. 24, 25, something like that. It's hard for me to see it at that angle. Okay, let's see what the other one shows on the convex side. Let's turn the wood around. Okay, blade is laying flat. Okay, we're hitting the wood right there. So again, we're at a shallower angle. We're about 22, 23 maybe. Okay, so it's the angle that you have to watch for when you're wanting to find a knife that feathers. And you get that from the thickness of the blade at this point here. It doesn't matter if it's hollow, doesn't matter if it's flat, doesn't matter if it's a Scandi, doesn't matter what it is. This apex right here on the secondary grind dictates whether it will feather or what it will do. Okay? One thing I did want to show before I close the video out, and I didn't want this to be a very long video. I hope I'm not rambling at this point. But let me, this is just retro cardboard, okay? Pretend this is a fish. Alright, so, and I know that cardboard is not a good substitute for flesh, but it's all I got. I don't have a fish, okay? So, if I take the original one, this one here, let's see how well I can go in between the cardboard and just pretend that this is, I'm filleting a fish out, okay? Now that convex will allow me to hold the blade up and do a very fine slice without going through. Okay? Now that's right-handed. Alright? So let's see if it makes a difference if I go with the hollow side. So, let's see if I can do this left-handed. Move the camera back because we gotta get on the other side of the table. See, it's going through the cardboard. So that matters because you can't control the angle of the blade and how it cuts. Let's try the other knife and see if we can do better. Same piece of cardboard, right-handed. See, I'm slicing right through the cardboard. So I don't have as much control on the fillets. Now, this knife is how the Russian knife is set up. So if you're going to use it for doing fine fillets and things like that, then you probably will want to make sure that it's set up properly for a left-handed or a right-handed. Now, if you come back the other way on this knife, then you can use the convex to control your cuts. Alright? Does it matter which side the hollow is on? Okay. With that demonstration, yes it does. It does matter. The question is, how are you going to use the knife? Are you going to use it for general purposes? Are you going to use it for filleting fish? I hope those demonstrations showed how you should have your knife set up. Okay, so right-handed, I would recommend this. Okay, all around knife, you can control the edge better, you can control the cuts better, so I'd prefer to have the hollow on that side. Now, the thickness here depends on what you want to do with the knife. If you want to use it for batoning and prying and all that sort of stuff, then you want this blade to be as thick as possible right through here. So you want your convex to be very shallow. Start about here, like this knife is set up. See where the convex starts? Starts right there. But if you want to do finesse cuts as far as feathers and things like that, then you want your convex to be set up at a higher angle, further up the blade. I hope all this is making sense. I really do. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well. But anyway, so feathers, doesn't matter which side the hollow's on. Filleting fish and things like that and controlled straight cuts, it does matter. Okay? So, R&D continues. I still think that this grind has its place. I think that it is a very unique grind, and I think it has some benefits. You try to take and fillet, for example, cardboard, standard hollow knife. Okay, let's see if we can fillet and control the cut like we did with that. See, it wants to slice right through. I think that convex helps you guide the knife a little bit better. Now with practice, you could probably do it, but it's not as easy as it would be if filleting that convex. The convex on this side helps you control that cut a lot better. So there, it's just very simple. I think this knife would fillet a fish in a heartbeat. It also has the strength to do all your butchering tasks. I think this is a well-rounded outdoorsman's knife. The grind is. I really do. I think that you have a thick knife to do camp chores, firecraft. You have the finesse of filleting a fish, butchering game. So I think that this combination, my thoughts right now, the combination of these two grinds is a perfect outdoorsman's knife. And that's what this knife was held at as far as Siberian peoples. That's what they use it for. It's processing game, processing fish, doing their firecraft, everything, wood carving, the whole gambit. Okay, and this knife, from what I've seen so far, it does it very well. So anyway, as far as setting it up, you have to decide how you want your convex set up. All right. So one other thing, somebody had said that that's a fuller, not a hollow grind. Well, these knives were made by forging, so they don't grind necessarily the hollows or the fullers in their blades. I don't forge, I grind. So I grind a hollow. These are not exact, okay? If it was exact, they would be rat-tailed tang knives, they wouldn't be full tang. They would have a different hollow or fuller. So this is a variation of that. I'm not trying to copy anybody. I'm trying to find out if this combination of a hollow and a convex, if it's a viable combination. Okay, that's what I'm after. And I think it's worth pursuing. I really do. I'm very impressed with how, especially this brown one. The green one, for me personally to use, I'm going to change this convex and I'm going to bring it further up the blade because I don't like the way it cuts now. I much prefer the way this one cuts. And it may be that side of the convex is on. Maybe. I don't know. We're going to do some more R&D. I'm going to change this convex up further up the blade and see if that changes my outlook on this one or not, but we'll see. Okay, I said I was going to change this grind, so I did. I brought the convex up higher up on the blade, and the reason it dips down is because that blade has a sink right there where I stamped that bead. But anyway, so the convex is brought higher up on the blade, probably another 1/4 inch maybe. Thinned it down a little bit. So let's see what that does to the cutting ability. And so let me move the camera down. Let's get to cutting. First of all, you remember how the leather did, how the leather was trying to split apart because it was acting as a wedge. Now again, that's not a bad thing. If you're wanting to baton and split things, then you want that wedge. But if you're wanting to slice things, then you don't want that wedge, okay? So see how much better or easier it slices now? the leather isn't being pressed apart as much. Okay, so it's a better slicer by bringing that convex higher up on the blade. All right. The other thing is that we wanted to see how well it did feathers, and again, there's your feathers or angle for your hollow side. Right there is where we're touching. So you can do on the hollow side, you can do very fine curls, not because it's hollow, but because of the angle or the thickness of this apex here. Now let's go to the side that's been changed. We're going to get on the convex side. Let's see, if I recall right, and probably rewind the video to find out, but I think it was around 24 or 25 degrees is where we started hitting material. So let's see where we're at now. Okay, we're hitting material now. So we're at what, 15, no, maybe 18 degrees. So we took almost 5 degrees off, or 6 degrees. So it should do better feathers now. So let's see. Let's look at this and see how well we do feathers with it. And again, since the convex is on the other side, I have to use this as a left-handed knife. And this is very difficult for me to do because I can't use my left hand very well. Which we should be able to use our off hands. We should practice that. Now see how fine those curls are? Because you can lay the knife down further and be able to control the angle of your cut a little bit better. If we still had to thicken apex on that secondary grind, then the blade would have to be held up at an angle, and it drives the blade into the material. It doesn't allow you to lay it down and do those thin cuts. Okay, so let's take it back to the cardboard and see how well it will do the fillets now. And again, we're going to use the convex, so I'm going to have to pull it to me because the blade is opposite of what I think a right-handed blade should be. See there? You control the cut so you don't go through the cardboard. Now let's go the other way using the hollow. I don't think you can control the cut as well. So you're wanting to slice through the cardboard. It's just slicing through the cardboard. You can't control the angle of your cut, which is the cardboard you can. So you can fillet those fish out. In closing, it does matter which side the hollow is on, whether you're left-handed or right-handed. If you want to control those slicing cuts, as far as fillets and things like that, if you need to use the knife as a fillet knife. As far as feathers and wood carving, it doesn't matter. What matters is the thickness of this apex here. That's what dictates whether you do fine feathers or not. Okay? So, that's my findings thus far. You guys get out in the woods if you can, backyard if you can't, whittle on a stick, find out how well your knives do. If you do, take a child with you, get the opportunity. And don't forget those Band-Aids and lots of knives. We'll catch you again soon.